Hi friends! So now you've heard two versions of the Passover story. So this is another version. But this one is going to be what we call oral, which means told verbally and only through listening to me talk. It means that there's nothing really for you to read or for you to see. I'm just going to tell it to you and you're going to get to enjoy it. All right, you ready? A long, long time ago, God saved the Jewish people and took them out of slavery in Egypt, leading them through a sea of reeds and into the land of Israel. Each year, we celebrate our freedom by reading the story of Passover out loud during the Seder. Here's how it all began. There was a mean, nasty king, and his name was Pharaoh, and he ruled over all of Egypt. For a long time, Pharaoh didn't like that there were so many Jewish people living in Egypt. He decided to make the Jewish people work all day long without pay. He made them slaves. Pharaoh said even the children had to work. A Jewish woman named Yocheved had a baby boy named Moses. Moses had a sister named Miriam and a brother named Aaron. Moses' mother wanted him to be safe and to not be a slave, so she hid him in a basket and sent him floating down the river Nile. His sister Miriam watched him, hiding in the reeds by the river. The floating basket was picked up by the princess of Egypt, Pharaoh's daughter. She took Moses to the palace where she grew up. Moses grew up in the palace to be a strong and brave person. He saw just how hard the Jewish people worked all the time, with no time to eat or to rest or to be with their children. Moses did know that he was Jewish. One day, Moses saw a Jewish slave being hit, and he stopped the man from hurting the slave. He knew he would be in trouble with Pharaoh, so he left the palace and he left all of Egypt. Moses left and became a shepherd guarding sheep. One day, one little lamb ran away. Moses chased after it and saw a strange sight. A bush was covered with fire, but it didn't burn. Moses went close to the bush, and all of a sudden he heard the voice of God speaking to him. Moses, take off your shoes and listen to me. Go down to Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Moses went back to Egypt and said to Pharaoh, let my people go. But Pharaoh only said, no, no, no. Moses told Pharaoh, he said, there will be 10 terrible plagues. There will be 10 terrible bad things that will happen if you do not listen to God. But Pharaoh didn't believe Moses. So the plagues came. Frogs and red rivers and lice and animals and sickness and boils and hail and locusts and darkness and finally sickness. Finally, Pharaoh had had enough. He ran to Moses and said, enough with you. Make the place stop. Go away, he yelled, and take all the Jewish people with you. Moses sent word to all the Jews. We must leave now, he told them. Go and grab your bags and leave at once. Don't you wait for the bread to rise. Go now. And the Jews left Egypt, and Moses led them. The Jewish people walked until they reached the Sea of Reeds, and there they stopped. They were trapped. They could see the Egyptian army coming behind them, but there was an ocean in front of them. How could they move? Pharaoh had changed his mind. He was chasing after the slaves. He wanted to bring them back. God told Moses to stretch out his arm over the waters, and all at once the sea split. The Jews were able to walk through on dry land, but as soon as the Egyptians set foot in the sea, the walls of the water closed, and the Egyptians were washed back to shore, leaving the Jewish people free on the other side. The Jewish people were safe and free. Miriam led them all with singing and dancing. Every year we remember that we are not slaves and how we became free. We read the Haggadah, which tells the story of Passover, and we invite friends and family to our Seder. We eat special foods and we say special prayers to thank God for our freedom. And that's the end of the oral Passover story that I have. So I want you guys to think about all three of the Passover stories that we read. So next week when we come back, you can think about the different versions and kind of compare them. All right, have a good week.